keep it real with ya.
Hey everybody, it's me Meanu back with another video. Same hair, same shirt, same day. Just, getting these recordings done. Thank you so much for watching the last video and listening to me rant about why traveling to London was so difficult and so hard for me. It's really opened my eyes because I feel like I've kind of sort of tangentially heard people talk about what walking cities mean for people who are disabled. Because there's always this discourse about like walking cities are amazing. You need a walking city. That's what you need. America needs to have walking cities. Um, and I feel like it was like one time I heard somebody be like, but y'all not thinking about disabled people. Well, now I know what they're talking about. Um, but yeah, thank you guys for watching that video and listening to me rant about my struggles traveling and my struggles navigating the city. Obviously, when you have a chronic illness, you want travel to be as easy as possible. I packed an entire pharmacy to help me deal with any pains or aches or indigestion or whatever could have happened to me while I was traveling. Because traveling is stressful enough. You add in all these different pains in your body and it just becomes even worse. Um, the cats are eating lunch right now, so I figure once they're done eating, they're going to come back in here and start bothering me. So let me just go ahead and get into the positives of the trip, the things that went well with the trip. So I would say, and I tell people all the time, like the universe got jokes because I feel like the universe said, "Oh, you have been hoping and praying to not have any pain while you're on this trip so that you can enjoy yourself. Well, I'm going to give you every single inconvenience and struggle possible because that's how the balance goes in my life. Apparently, I'm either going to be in physical pain or I'm going to be in mental, emotional, psychological pain. So I think that that was really the trade-off because I really was not in pain on this trip. All of the walking, all of the sweating, all of the stressing. Come on, Sadie, I already know you want to come up here. All of the stressing, and I was not having the cramping that I usually have. My stomach wasn't as upset as it usually is. Sadie, I'm gonna need you to. She keeps getting ready to jump on me, and when I throw my arms back, she's like, "Oh, arm, you're gonna pet me?" Ah! Damn it, these claws! Why is your claw so sharp? I want to take her to get her nails trimmed so bad, but it's gonna run me about 200 because they're gonna need to sedate her in order to trim her nails, and I don't want to spend that amount of money right now. Also, too, like I think I said in another video, they charge like $25 to trim a cat's nails. I love you too, Sadie. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, so back to what I was saying. I was not in a lot of pain, and I was very surprised. Yes, I was walking everywhere. Yes, my feet were getting sore. Yes, my calves were getting sore. But I wasn't in the physical pain that I'm usually in. I did not have the stomach upset that I usually have because I think the food that I was eating, it was just much more balanced in terms of like I was eating fish, I was eating duck. I really like duck. I wish I could eat more duck. I was eating fish, I was eating duck, I was eating vegetables on my food. Um, you know, it was just more balanced and I'll share, obviously share pictures of that on Instagram. Um, but it was just a more balanced in terms of eating everywhere I went that I was not I did not have the stomach upset that I usually do in America. Um, and also too, exercise is good for managing pain too because it has that anti-inflammatory effects. And so it was good to get that exercise. It was just stressful that it was because I would regularly become stranded in the middle of London and have to walk for who knows how long to get back to my office and then be late to my meetings and all of that stuff. So still a lot of physical stress, but I was not in as much physical pain. I would say there was one day during the trip where I become so overwhelmed and stressed because walking from my hotel to the office or walking from the office to get something to eat, then walking back to the hotel, um, I had sat down in my hotel and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I could not get back up to go back into the office. And also to the office, my job's office was very, very like high security. So I had to get like a special badge in order to enter the building. And that special badge, you have to swipe it to enter the building. You have to swipe it to get on the elevator to go to the floor you want to go to. And you have to swipe it to leave the building. So, and there's always a security guard standing there watching to make sure that people are swiping. And so I lost that card at the same time that I had become stranded in the city. And I made my way back to the office only to realize that I didn't have the card to swipe. And even if someone swiped me in, they would have to swipe me through the elevator and swipe me to get out. So it was just like I had to go back to my hotel to like search for it. And when I went back to my hotel, I had to call somebody. I was like, look, I'm not going to make the meeting. You're going to have to call me. I know that I'm in London, but you're going to have to do it virtual because I'm not getting out of this seat for like the next 2 hours. I just can't do it. I'm like paralyzed at this point. Yeah, so it was just very very stressful to the point where I started like feeling physical pain as a result of the high amounts of stress that I was in. And I did manage, I couldn't get something with my regular therapist because she's always booked up, but I did manage to get an appointment with my hair therapist just so I could have somebody to talk to about what was going on, because I was just like, I just need somebody to talk to. It's, even though I'm going to, to the office and stuff, so I'd see my coworkers, I'm still technically like by myself when it comes to traveling or being in the hotel or going out to eat. Like all that's still alone. So it was good to have someone to talk to. And so she came through, was able to get on early morning her time, afternoon my time, so that we can just have a talk and she could like talk me through things. And that kind of helped me get a little reset so that I was able to go into the rest of the trip with a more positive mindset. Now, trust me, by Friday, that mindset was gone again. But I will say it was a positive that I was able to speak to my therapist and get some therapy in to help me keep going and not wallow in those negative emotions. And then it was also positive that I wasn't feeling a lot of pain to where I'm like, usually like debilitated, like laying on the floor, can't go do anything, can't talk to anybody. I was able to manage myself, especially considering I had gotten the news from my doctor. I got blood work and I got news from the doctor that all the stuff that I was taking in terms of like the pain medicine and all that stuff was negatively impacting my liver. And so they needed me to go off all of my pain meds and not take any supplements. And one of the supplements that I was taking was ashwagandha, which was really good for helping regulate my mood and like my anxiety. So to have to go off all of that at the same time that I'm in this whole new situation and all of this stress, it just compounded a lot of things. So I had to go off my magnesium. I had to go off the ashwagandha. I had to go off the vitamin D, which is good for, especially because you're in a place where everything's cold and blue. Taking vitamin D is really good for helping you not be so depressed. So I had to go off of that. I couldn't take Tylenol. I couldn't take ibuprofen. I couldn't take anything. I was just out there. And so obviously that came with the fear of like, what do I do if I'm in pain? But luckily I didn't have to have that situation. They also was like, don't drink alcohol, don't take in fatty food. I'm like, look, I'm on vacation, technically, and I'm in a place where they drink in London. So we gonna have to push that out, until I get back. We can avoid alcohol when I get home. We can't avoid alcohol when I'm in London. It's not happening. They was giving me free alcohol on the plane. It's just not happening. But yeah, so I would say that was two of the positives: not being in a lot of pain and also being able to get that therapy appointment and to just discuss everything that I was struggling with and like, talk to somebody about this whole, I'm scared now. I'm taking, I was taking all these supplements that are really good for your mood and your physical health, and now I'm not taking them. What am I gonna do? It was good to have that person to talk to so that I wasn't just like, unloading or trauma dumping. Well, I guess it wouldn't be trauma dumping, but I wouldn't just like be dumping all of my negative emotions on my coworkers. They'd be like, "How you doing, Minu?" Bad. You know what I mean? Like I used to do that all the time, and I don't want to be that person anymore. But yeah, those are two positives. The other positive was my coworkers were really, really amazing. Like they were fine on camera, like I didn't really have any beef with anybody. Well, I'm not gonna lie. There was a couple white men that rubbed me the wrong way a few times because I was like, why are you doing this? I had some deal with some mansplaining guys. And so I did have a few situations where I was like, look, I know what I'm talking about, and I'm telling you that this is this. Okay, we can't pretend that Minu don't know what she's talking about. So I did have a few of those moments, but outside of that, like, people were fine. I wasn't like beefing with anybody like I have been in my previous jobs where I had people say crazy stuff to me or send me crazy messages or, you know what I mean? Everybody was just fine. Meeting them in person, I realized why everybody was just fine. They was real laid back people. They was just really chill people. And they were like, Minu, this isn't rocket science. We are not doctors. We are not in a clinic trying to save lives, okay? We do tech. We don't do medical tech. We just do regular tech, okay? It ain't that damn serious. And to be in an environment where people said that and they actually meant it. Like, my manager didn't care that I was late coming to a meeting because I was doing something else. My other coworkers was late coming to the meeting anyway. Whether it was because they was late getting off the train or they was late walking in or they wanted to grab something to eat. They didn't care that you was late. Only thing they would care about would be like if you had to present something and they were waiting on you to come present. But like, they was real laid back, chill people. And my manager, she was really, really nice because one, she took very close care of remembering a lot of the little details about me. So where she could make sure I was taken care of. So like I had told her before about like me having a chronic illness. I didn't specify exactly what it was because that ain't none of her business. But I did tell her that I have a chronic illness, that I do experience a lot of pain. So she was telling me like that there was a first aid room in the building that I could go to if I was in pain and I need to step away. Just to communicate with her that's, and all of that. And she also threw me a party one of the days that I was there, and it wasn't in the middle of the day, but it was like after work kind of thing. And because the company, I will say the thing about companies is that this company in particular, they did the whole return to work right. One, they return people hybrid. So HR only works in the office like 2 days out the week. And then the rest of the days they work from home. But when they do have you come into the office to work, they made sure to give you the best experience possible. Like the break room has like a mini coffee shop in it where they can make you like lattes and espressos and all of that stuff. It looks like a restaurant in the break room, honestly, because there's all these like cool booths and tables. There's a whole like a refrigeration section where you can get little sandwiches and smoothies and all of that stuff. And they had like they had like people who are coming through cleaning all the time. So there was like all these glasses. You can get water straight from the Brita filtered water. You can drink out the glasses. They had recycling everywhere because it's London. You could recycle. But then on a different floor of the building was like 2 restaurants. One of them I never went to, but I would see people there during the lunchtime. The other one was like a restaurant/bar, and it was a full restaurant, tables, booths. You go order at the register. They give you you can order actual food and alcoholic beverages there. And so they were like, we're going to make you come to the office, we're going to make it as pleasant as possible to where people regularly after work would go up there and get a drink before they leave to go hop on the train and go home. So my manager booked the area, and they also had like it was cold, so we didn't use this area, but it was like a rooftop area where you could sit outside and drink and have a good time. But it was, it's November, December, so we didn't do that, obviously. But I saw out there, it was really cool. But she booked off, they sectioned off a little area for us where we all I met all my coworkers and all the people that I've worked with. I've met people who I haven't even worked with. Honestly, they had just heard about me. And apparently they heard positive things about me, which was awesome. And my manager was going around. She had bought some rosé for everybody. So she was going around pouring people glasses. But also we were ordering from the bar because they was like, oh, Mina, you ever tried this? And I was like, no. And they was like, oh, you got to try that. Let me go get you one. I don't know who was paying for all of this. I assume it was my manager had a company card or something. But it was a great time because also too, like I told y'all in the other video, I brought my coffin purse. I was not playing around. I brought my coffin purse and people loved my coffin purse. They were like, "Oh my God, Minu, are you like one of those alt people, like them alternative fashion people?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got my goth boots, like I be doing a little some. I ain't bringing to work, obviously, but I got some outfits in there." And they were like, "Oh my God, that's so cool." I met with people who were super interested in history. One of my coworkers has a relative who lives in the U.S., so they were saying that, talking about a lot of stuff they learned about the U.S. from when they visit their relative. I met somebody who was really into horror movies. My manager, she couldn't handle it. But I had met some people who were really into horror movies, so we talked about that. We talked about different cultures because London is a lot more multicultural in terms of like a lot more people mixing with different cultures versus in the US. It's not a melting pot. It's a lot of cultures, but a lot of people silo themselves. It's a lot of segregation. Like there's a Chinatown where all the Chinese people live. There's Little Italy where all the Italians live. They don't mix. But London was a place of a lot of mixing, and so just like that in my job, in my office, it was a lot of mixing, a lot of different cultures. People who were from Ireland, people who were from Portugal, people who were from Wales. I wasn't the only black person in the department. I wasn't the only black person on my team. I was one of like 3 black people on my team alone, let alone people in the department. Obviously, there were Indian people there as well. But it was really, really cool to just like be around these different cultures and languages, and people were excited to share their culture and their language as well. So like the guy from Wales, he was like, the Welsh language has survived because people in, I think he said Brazil or something. But there's people in other countries who speak the language, and that's how the language survives. And I was like, oh man, that's so cool. But it was really, really good. And we had a really great time getting to know everybody and hang out with everybody. And it felt natural. It felt authentic. It felt real. It didn't feel like forced. Like I feel like, corporate holiday parties in America definitely feel forced. If you're not an executive, if you're an executive, you're the one doing the forcing. So it feels good to you. But everybody else feels like kind of imposed upon because they have to be around these people and they have to keep like masking and acting a certain way. These people were chill. They were totally relaxed. They like, it's after work. We don't have no meetings. We're not doing emails. Like we're just talking and having fun with each other. And actually like my manager specifically told the restaurant that they needed to prepare gluten-free foods. They did not. So one of my coworkers like, "Oh, let me walk you somewhere. I know where somewhere they got gluten-free food." So literally me and her left for like 25, 30 minutes. And she walked me over to a fast food place that had gluten-free chicken nuggets. I was like, what? And we had a great conversation. We talked about gentrification, racism, multiculturalism. Like these people was not afraid to have any of these conversations with me. They were not afraid to have conversations about gun violence in America. They were not afraid to have conversations about imperialism, colonialism. Like nothing was off the table. And then it got even wilder. That party was from like, I think it was from like 4 to 7, 5 to 7, maybe. But towards the end of that, they were like, "Okay, y'all, the party's not over. We got to take Minu to a pub." And I was like, "Oh man, that's why I wanted to go to a pub." They took me to a pub and my manager was still there. She was like, "All right, we don't polish off the rosé. We're going to a pub. Let's go." Go to the pub, drinks just being poured everywhere. They having me try all types of stuff. They buying gluten-free beer. We're doing shots of this, shots of that, Japanese whiskey because my manager's like, "I remember you love Japan." Like all types of just drinking. Now, obviously, I wasn't like drinking because why would I do that? But I was trying a little bit of everything and having a good time. But I did not get drunk at all the whole night because I babysat them drinks. But everybody's having a great time. My manager was like, "Tell me about when you went to Japan." And then like the bartender was into anime. He had anime tattoos. And then me and some other coworkers started talking about anime. We talked about horror movies. We just had all types of crazy conversations. They would, sharing funny videos with each other. And it was just a really good time. One of my coworkers, I knew she had ADHD from the second I met her. I clocked it so fast. It's funny because one of my friends was like, how do you clock ADHD? I was like, I clocked it so fast. I just didn't say nothing because maybe she didn't want people to know. But she finally brought up being neurodivergent, and I was like, yeah, I figured that. Um, and then so I was like, but I let her know, I was like, I'm neurodivergent too. And so we had a good conversation about that. And my coworker was like, me too, I didn't even notice she was neurodivergent. I was like, really? I told them some of the struggles I had, and I was like, like about people criticizing me over my like tone and like being too direct, and they were like, what? There's nothing wrong with your tone. You get along great with everybody. I was like, oh really? Thank you. They were like, yeah, we like you because you care about getting the job done, and that's literally all we need is for the job to get done. Everything else is extra. Like, we don't do all of that other stuff with the office politics and this and that. Like, nah, we just need to get to the finish line. But then they also told me too, they were like, but Aminu, the way you communicate, like you communicate with a level of compassion and empathy. So even when you are like criticizing someone or calling attention that someone didn't do something, you do it with empathy so nobody feels attacked. Because, like, we know you're not attacking anybody or trying to blame anybody. And I was like, Sadie, I'm going to need you to figure out what you're trying to do on my lap, okay? And so, like, that meant a lot to me because I feel like people attack my tone a lot, especially in previous roles. And I think that's a difference between working in, like, HR and tech and HR tech is that HR feels very, like, white woman dominated. So it's, like, very, like, passive aggressive and you can't say anything. Like, I remember at one of my companies years ago, HR had to get involved because these two black guys who was working, like they were working like a warehouse type setting. So it was very much a completely different environment, right? And it was these two black dudes. And so they were talking to each other and they had said the N-word, which normally would be like, whatever, they just, black people say the N-word sometimes to each other. And it wasn't like an insulting thing. It was just like they were just saying it. And someone reported them to HR for using the N-word at work. And HR like had to investigate it like it was somebody using racial slurs. Like, it was just so ridiculous how corporate office politics can be. And I think that's part of the reason why people don't like HR is because they think like you're just these super stuffy people. But then it's like, okay, but if you don't do anything, the person who took offense to it could then say that you allow racial slurs to happen in the workplace. So it becomes a whole thing. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, I'm at the pub and we're talking about like different curse words in British versus American English. And we're just having a good time talking about it. And it was just so fun. And so talking about being neurodivergent with my coworkers, and they were like, I never really noticed anything wrong with the way you communicate or the way you work with people, because you're very empathetic and understanding of like where everybody's coming from. And they were like, Mina, like people are just people. Like, there's so many differences in people. Like, to ask everybody to be the same or to talk the same or to act the same is just ridiculous and unrealistic. Like, there's gonna be so much difference and variety in the people you meet in life. And, y'all are just different types of people. And it's like, it seems so obvious to say that. But again, you know how it be in America. You don't get to just be different types of people. Only certain types of people get the privilege of being considered just different types of people. And then everybody else has to be something's wrong with you. You're abnormal. You know what I mean? But it meant a lot to have my coworkers say that. And it meant a lot for my manager to have that same belief. It's like, I like the way you communicate. I like the way you work with people. I like your passion. I like your drive. And, it's just, there's so many things about you that just find interesting. And I just like to know about these things genuinely. Like, I didn't go into the office telling everybody about Japan. It was just something that I kind of brought up. And then my manager was like, you got to tell me about Japan. Like, when we were at the pub, it's like, you got to tell me that. And I was like, yeah, like she's just genuinely interested and not just, blowing smoke up your butt for the sake of keeping up appearances. So it meant a lot. I was out until like midnight with them. And I would have never done that at any of my previous companies. And I have managers that I liked and I have coworkers that I liked. I would have never stayed up that late with any of my previous companies. But I did with those guys, and I had a great time. I was super tired the next morning, but I had a great time hanging out with them. And one of them even walked me back to my hotel when it was in the opposite direction of where they were going. But they were like, "Yeah, you shouldn't be walking back by yourself after, drinking at night. Come on now." And I didn't get to take really any pictures with them. Oh, well, I did. We did take one like the last day in the office, but we didn't take any pictures at like the party or at the pub. And I'm bad about it because like I'd rather just be in the experience than take pictures. But then later I was like, man, I'm gonna wish I took a picture because just for the memories of it. But they're in my head as of right now, and I really enjoy like dwelling on it and thinking about it and sharing it with people because it just felt so good. And then talking to my therapist and when I came back, my regular therapist was like, "Now, how does it feel to be in an environment where people accept you as you are?" And I don't know why she said that with the most devious look on her face, but I was like, "Yeah, it felt great." And then my black hair therapist was like, "Yeah, so now you know when you go into an environment and it don't feel like that, that it's just not for you. And there's nothing wrong with you. It's just the people in that room don't deserve your energy." And I was like, "You're right, you're right." And I be hearing people say that. I just don't believe it. But now I've experienced it. And I was literally considering like one of my coworkers was like, "Oh my God, you just need to move to London because you're just like too much fun. We have too much in common for you to not be here so that we can hang out all the time." And I thought about it for a second because I felt like even though there was like one place I went to, but it was kind of stuffy. So it makes sense that they were a little like, we're above you. But almost every place I went to, nobody seemed to have anything like be weird around me. I feel like there's so many places in America where I go where people just seem uncomfortable around me. And I guess maybe it's because they can't figure me out, like they don't know what's going on. But when I was in London, like random strangers would be like, "Oh, I like your purse," or "Oh, I like your jacket." Or when I would get lost, I would just approach random strangers to ask them to show me how to get home. And they would like try to pull up Google Maps to see where I'm supposed to be going and like show me their phone. And it was fine. Like nobody was like weird or like tried to run away from me or like looked at me like, "Why are you approaching me? Why are you talking to me?" You know what I mean? Of all the struggles I had navigating the city, the people were really, really good people that I interacted with. Even one lady was like, "Are you okay? Why you don't have your coat on? It's so cold outside." And I was like, "Lady, you don't know. You don't know how much walking I've been doing. You don't know how sweaty I am right now." She didn't even really speak English that well, so I couldn't really communicate to her exactly why I wasn't wearing a coat, but she was just concerned. As opposed to like awkwardly standing next to me trying to avoid me. So it was really, really good. And it was good to have people who were like willing to like walk with me to get something to eat if there weren't any like gluten-free options. I had another coworker took me to the grocery store there, a place called a Tesco, where I found the softest gluten-free bread I ever had in my life. And she took me there because she was like, "I know they got gluten-free stuff. Let's go over there together. It's no problem." And then we came back and then we ate together. And it was just really nice. And people were just open and authentic. And they were like normal people. And it feels nice to be around people who are just normal people. Everybody else is just doing too much all the damn time. But they were just like, "No, like, here's what it is." They don't know something, they don't know something. They can't do something. They don't have the capability, they don't have the capability, and it's not all this like pump faking of like, "I'm the best ever and I'm better than everybody else and I can do everything," when we know you lying and you can't do everything. So that was really, really, really good. Thank you guys so much for listening. In the next video, I'm going to talk more about some of the things that I did when I was in London and the experiences that I had. More positive things though, more positive things. Maybe not all positive things. Maybe a couple negatives in there, but overall positive things. But I'm just excited to share all of this with you guys. So I'll see you in the next video. Love you guys. Bye.